The guy who is on drugs is the best person. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
So you signed up and saw my name and you paid money and thought you could beat me. So you can go home and brag and say that you beat me. This guy's carrying this, so I'm gonna carry that, and I use it on that boy, and I use something on him. I have to live with the idea that I've killed that person. Almost every single child carries a knife. What trials do you think he's gonna face in his life? Whose example have we got that gives you an exact example of that scenario?
Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam.
There you go.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back everyone to another episode of your favorite podcast, Cage Close. You're here with your host Hamza, and this episode is sponsored by AWCI. Guys, check them out for all your commercial contracting needs, dry lining, steel framing, rendering, plastering. They do the whole lot. One of the fastest growing businesses in this region. I want to introduce you to our guest, brother Luqman. Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it. What's your kind of thing on kind of striking to the head as well? Like, did you ever do any other martial art or anything, or did you ever dabble in the striking? I mean, from we had like a little conversation downstairs, so I know that you understand to a very good level as well. You know, what it is that you're trying to achieve in MMA, how you want to strike, what your openings are. But did you like dabble in that yourself a lot, or is it just all stuff that you've kind of learned from your practice of jiu-jitsu?
When I was like 6, I did Shotokan karate till I was about 10, maybe 9, and then went to school and I wanted to be a football player and played football up until I was like 16, and then stopped because I had to work, and then I started to do Thai boxing and kickboxing probably for about a year, did judo for a little while, went to a few wrestling classes and then started jiu-jitsu. So I understand, I love martial arts, and I like, beyond that, I like biomechanics. I like the study of the human body and the mechanics of how it works. So when I look at martial arts, it's a good way because someone's aim is to shut down someone else's body from doing the things it's able to do and excel in getting their body to do what they want their body to do. So it's a good challenge. It's like a chess match.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same as doing monkey bars from two ends. You're going to meet in the middle and someone's going to be in someone's way and you've got to move someone out the way in order for you to work efficiently. So martial arts has always intrigued me, and I've been a fan forever. So I feel like if I started younger and I didn't have the rules that I choose to go by in life now, I probably would have done MMA. I'm confident I would have. When I was little, everyone wanted to be a football player. It was it.
Yeah.
I'm old, so in them days it was to be a football player, and that's it. So,
But football, you have to get in young, isn't it? Like they start like real grassroots, like, you know, kids playing, 6, 7-year-old kids playing like 5, 6, 7 aside or whatever, and then from there they get kind of scouted up or whatever. Like, you can't start at like 17 or 18. I think it's too late by that point.
It's too late, that's one thing. And another thing is, football's a spectator sport. So you have 22 players on the pitch. You have 5 subs each. So we say 32 players on the pitch. You have a linesman, if you're lucky, referees. Say another 4 people. So you've got 40 people in the stadium who are actively participating in football. And you've got 50,000 people watching it. And half of them, probably more than half, can't play football. Whereas you go to jiu-jitsu competition, everybody that's there, we don't have spectators there. Nobody pays money to go to a jiu-jitsu competition and watch it who doesn't do jiu-jitsu. It doesn't work. It's very rarely.
You're there to, either you do jiu-jitsu or you're there with someone who does jiu-jitsu.
So literally, let's say 30%, 40%, 50%, maybe even more, 60% of the crowd at jiu-jitsu does jiu-jitsu. So with football, because it's a spectator sport, you look at it, for every 50,000 and 30 and 42 people, 42 of them are going to be involved in football on the frontline level. So it's the chart when I look at football, and it was never designed, or it's not practiced for you to be able to necessarily excel. It's fun, it's enjoyable doing, and I enjoy it. And I think, if you're elite, you can make it, but it's very difficult to make it because it's like, there's so many factors. It's a team sport as well, which is another thing. So it makes it difficult in your
If you can't play well as a team, then
you might not be in favour with the team.
I feel like there's a lot of politics in football as well. I used to love playing football, enjoyed it, 5-a-side, school, like playing in school, whatever. a few odd training sessions at a club or whatever, but I just felt like there was, like the coaches would always have their favorites, and no matter what you do, you could, like, you know, he's going to go with his favorite. Like, the guy's played 4 matches up front this season, he ain't scored a single goal, but he's starting the 5th match as well, and it's like, come on, man, like, you can, you know, there's other guys that you can try as well. Like, this was kind of like my own personal thing. Like, I really wanted to play, but you got me on the sub bench for 60, 70 minutes, and this guy ain't done nothing. That's
the difference, yeah, with jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So let's say there's a competition, yeah. There's 5 weight classes, and Uswa says they're gonna put through 10 people, so they have 2 in every weight class. You, in your weight class, you might be in the same weight class as someone who you know is better than you at jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you train with him every day gives you problems. He fights in the same comp as you and he doesn't get to the final of it in your division, and you do and you win. So your credence, you have your own credence on your own. Yeah. It doesn't make you better than him, but you both got the same chance to express yourself in the same competition. Yeah. Whereas football, if you're both left wingers, you're not playing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're, whoever was the best in training is you will not get. You have to. You're going to end up having bad thoughts. Yeah, I hope he gets injured. And do you know what I mean? It's not. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you always stand a fighting chance. Don't get me wrong. Years ago, when jiu-jitsu first started, it was like that. Some clubs only picked one person from their club to go in the division. Yeah. But that was when jiu-jitsu was much smaller and it was very, very intricate in that sense. But now everybody can go and you can get involved.
So what was it like before? Because like, I mean, I've been competing for like a year and a half in jiu-jitsu or whatever, and I turn up to these comps, full, you know, the hall's full, loads of people there. Like, was it always like that? Like, I mean, how long have you been competing in jiu-jitsu for?
I did my first competition after just under a year of doing jiu-jitsu, on and off. But that was like training once or twice a week. There wasn't that many jiu-jitsu gyms. Like, so I went to, when I started jiu-jitsu, the first place I went to a jiu-jitsu class with Waleed, who teaches in Luton now. Yeah. So I went there for about a month. And then I left and there was an MMA gym near my house, and I used to go there. And the coach there is a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well, Pete Irvin, yeah? So to this day, he's my coach. He lives in Newcastle, so I don't get to see him much. I go and travel and meet him. But he's always been there consistently for my jiu-jitsu, always, even if it's a phone call, questions, always told me to train, represent who I want. It doesn't bother him. But he's like my mentor when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I trained with him for a year, then he had to leave and go back to Newcastle. So we'll say about 10 months. So I remember I signed up for my first competition, and then this is where I met kind of like the person he left in charge of the gym to teach, called Austin Gardner, who spent the beginning of his jiu-jitsu at Carlson Gracie as well. When it ended up training at a team called 99, but he was at Carlson's at the beginning as well. So him and this are the same generation. Okay. So I remember I fought my first competition. My first competition was online. I'll give it to you to cut into this. It's appalling. Okay. Yeah. But I won. Alhamdulillah, I won. But I'm like, yeah.
Were you a white belt at this point? Or
yeah, white belt. Okay. Yeah. But the competitions were big. So they were big, but there were 1 or 2 competitions a year.
Like sparse.
Yeah. So it was like this competition was. I can't remember. It was called. Was it called Grappling Showdown? Something called Grappling Showdown or something else, but it was in another event. So imagine you have like a sporting event like, so for example, there was one competition that was in the Cine. So the Cine is like a big sports exhibition in Excel, but it has a jiu-jitsu competition at the same time as the event.
Time, like the Arnold convention, like they do.
Exactly like that. So it wasn't so much depiction of how big jiu-jitsu was. It wasn't like a this open and a that open. It was more like that. So I fought in that, and then I think I just started to look for competitions, and then I used to go abroad and compete a lot as well. The first time I ever left this country, it was for jiu-jitsu. I never left the country till I was 29 years old.
No way.
First place I left was to go to, where did I go first? Holland. I've competed in Amsterdam, France, Italy, Denmark, Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi for like
World Pros.
Oh, for the pro, okay.
Yeah. So World Pros as a purple belt. Copenhagen, like I said, Denmark. I think that's it. But I've been to Holland twice. I've been to Italy twice. I've been to France 3 times, I think. Twice to compete. And Abu Dhabi I've been to twice. Once to compete, one to coach. So yeah, then I just started to look for competitions, and you get hungry and you want to compete. I'm a firm believer that competition gives space for growth.
Yeah.
So it is about winning, but you can't really lose by going to competition. I think you can lose the competition, you can lose the battle, but you cannot be a loser if you went to compete.
Yeah, I mean, you turned up, you did what?
You learn about yourself.
Loads of people, yeah.
You learn about yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's better you put yourself in the cauldron and get to be tested in that hot environment there than it gets brought to you in a place where you're not expecting it, and then you have to react in that scenario. Do you know what I mean? Because the reality of it is, we do jiu-jitsu, we do martial arts, but we forget the martial element of it, the defense element of it, the bit which pertains to real life. We deal with the art element of it, yeah? And I don't think you should look at them as separate. What stops me from fighting outside on the street is because I like to think I know how to fight.
Yeah.
So it would be negligent of me to do certain things. I'm not saying I'd win, I'm just saying I can't modify my intention because I know what I'm capable of doing or what things do. And so part of the thing that gives me elements of control is the fact that I'm aware of how the body works and the dangers of pulling it to one extreme or another extreme. Dangers for me and the person I'm fighting. So whether it's be to stop you from fighting or to make you fight or to whichever one it's going to be, I feel like going and competing and learning about it yourself and learning about what you're capable of doing is good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I think that leads on quite nicely because like one of the things I wanted to ask you as well is like, what are like your intentions behind training and competing? Because a lot of people might have like, you know, self-serving intentions, like, you know, I want to be the best, I want the fame, I want this or that. Some people might have other intent, like, you know, their intention might be, I just want to learn to protect myself or whatever. But like, what would you say is like, you know, especially us as Muslims, what should our intentions be for training? And if we're competing as well, whether that's in BJJ or MMA or Thai boxing or whatever, what should our intentions be? And maybe like, what are your personal intentions as well?
Right. But I'm going to answer this, the first bit second or the second bit, I can't remember.
Whichever way.
I cannot tell anybody what their intention should be, and I would struggle to tell you with what your intention should be as a Muslim, yeah? I think when we look at on the scope of life, we know what our intention is as a Muslim. So the general consensus is that everything you do in your life is either going to be bringing you closer to Allah or further away from Allah, yeah? So whatever you do, try to guide yourself in a direction which is bringing you closer to Allah. If you're unsure about an action which you're doing or something you're taking part in and not sure if it's going to be pleasing to Allah, yeah, you can do it. You can do it as long as you're not unsure that it's displeasing to Allah. So if you can't make up an act of worship. You can't say this is an act of worship. But you can do things in dunya-wise until somebody tells you it's haram. Whereas with acts of worship, you can't do anything until somebody tells you it's halal. You can't make up an act of worship. You can't say I'm doing this to worship Allah and then
and it's not part of the deen.
You can't make it up. Whereas with the dunya, you can kind of do what you're going to do, and then someone tells you what's haram and halal. So for example, if I make it a bigger scope, okay, combat, I like the idea of fighting. Are you allowed to hit people in the head? Are you allowed to hit people in the face? That's the elements you would strip away from it. But your first protocol is, okay, I enjoy fighting. So I would say that there's the hadith which says the strong believer is better than the weak believer. Yeah. Now some people say this in faith, some people say this in physicality, some people say it's both. Yeah. I'd advise people to do the research into it. Yeah. But we also have an onus to look after our body. Yeah. So when it comes to, and then when we look at the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, we look at wrestling and grappling and things like this across the board. We look at safe avenues to do so. So for me, I wanted to learn a contact sport. Then within learning a contact sport, I looked at what I didn't feel comfortable doing Islamically and what I did feel comfortable doing Islamically. Then I looked at what was the better option. So I did some wrestling for a bit. Then I said, hold on a minute, I'd like to be able to finish people with submissions. Then I thought, okay, cool. So I went into jiu-jitsu. But whatever you participated in this dunya, always try to make it not take you away from the primary goal, which is to please Allah. Do you know what I mean? So there's the primary goal is to please Allah. You could end up pleasing yourself or pleasing the people, but you don't want to displease Allah.
So you got to be careful of that.
So you want to rule out the third, that category. You don't want to get into that. And I'm saying that humbly. I'm not saying like I'm the expert at not doing that.
Of course.
I'm just saying, but there's some things you might not be able to pinpoint. but you don't want to be wasting your time. The benefit of places like here, places like 313, places like Uswa, places like this in general is, for me, I don't socialize outside of this. I'm a sociable person, but I don't socialize. I go to train, go to work, and I go home.
Yeah.
So,
is there a reason you don't socialize outside? Is it like, I'm just guessing, like, and I'm saying this because like maybe this is kind of some of the situations that I find myself in. So I'm not like trying to be like, oh, bro, this like, I kind of the same thing where I socialize. Like I come here, I work, home. And like oftentimes I do socialize, like I try and keep it like, I try and socialize with, good company or whatever, but there's times where I like socialize with some of my friends, they're non-Muslim as well and stuff like that. So is there a reason that you're not socializing, or is it like, are you trying to prevent yourself to be in certain scenarios? Because it's like, if you want to prevent yourself from going down like a destructive or wrong path, in displeasing Allah, then you take yourself out of the environment, right? Like, a lot of like top psychologists and stuff will say like, I like listening to Jordan Peterson. So he'll say like, look at your environment. Like, what is it that you need to remove from your environment that's going to stop you from,
See, I tell you what, it's a mixture of things, because everything you're saying all of it is true. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know what it was, but put it this way. So I grew up till I was about, I think it's 21, non-Muslim. Yeah. Okay. And that doesn't make me better or worse. I'm not saying that. I mean, I grew up non-Muslim, so I didn't have the same rule set that I have now. So there were some things that I used to do that were normal that I used to do, and normal amongst my peers. Yeah. But they were not necessarily the higher level of human behavior anyway. But we had excuses. You're young. The area I live in, you know what it's like, and there's a bunch of excuses. Yeah, there's a lot of excuses in it. So I'm not even saying to you that it would have fitted well in any environment, but in my microcosm, that was my little world when I was 19, 20, it was alright.
Because everyone's doing it, right?
Because everyone's doing it. So when I became Muslim, there were some things I wanted to stop. And I'm grateful because the friends that I had, I always kept a very small, close unit of friends. I was popular, but I kept a small, very close unit of friends, and all of them understood. I have a friend that I speak to today, and he's the first person to give me a book about Islam. He's not Muslim.
Really?
He's the first person ever to give me a book about
No
Islam.
way.
And then, a year later, after I'd been reading, but I was reluctant, we were having a discussion, and he went to me, "You're always talking about this Islam stuff. Just become Muslim, bro." And that sounds volatile. Literally, he said it to me, and I thought, what the heck, he's right. I'm actually, every minute I'm talking about it, you lot must be getting bored of me. So I remember thinking, you lot must be absolutely bored, because I'm using Islam to clarify everything that we're doing. How we refer to people. Oh, we talk about people like, that's my brother, that's my sister. Yeah, because in Islam they do. He's looking at me like, bro, can we just live? And I'm like, bro, I'm living. So everything's through that lens, isn't it? Through that lens. So alhamdulillah, but I think when it comes to, I'm a fan of small circles. I'm a homely person. I like to be in my house. I like to be with my wife. I like to chill. But everyone has 24 hours in a day. Nobody has more than 24 hours in a day. We have the same amount of time in a day. Yeah. So if I said to someone, you can be, all right, you're married, you can't pray in front of your wife, you can't spend time with your wife and your kids, so everything had to be separate, you'd struggle to fit everything in. Yeah. So you pick things that overlap. You pick a wife that you can pray with and learn with, and have kids with, and share the time together. So it's the same with your friends. You pick friends and something that's sociable, and something that's sociable that benefits you and benefits your health, and allows you to not veer away from Allah. So you look at it. So I said you must have like three: neutral, where you kind of don't know, but you don't know it's a sin. You don't know it's sinful. Doing good, which you know, all right, cool. I'm doing an act of worship. Like I've gone to the masjid. I'm going to pray. I'm going to read. Muslim, non-Muslim, whatever it is, I wouldn't work in a workplace where I think the people were toxic to me. Yeah. And that doesn't have to mean that they wouldn't be toxic if they were Muslim or not Muslim. It just means I try to be around people that have similar ethics to me. Yeah. And stay within that. Do you know what I mean by that? And the likelihood of certain things, I just try to work within that. So for me, my circle is very, very small in that sense. Do you know what I mean?
I want to touch on the fact that you said that your friend, that he, like the first book that you got, like an Islamic book, was from your friend. He was non-Muslim.
Yeah.
Like, has he since turned Muslim or?
No.
No. How comes he gave you that book? Like, was it just like someone gave it to him and he was like, bro, I don't want to read this. You have it.
So do you remember I said that you have people with the same ethics as you?
Yeah.
So we grew up together. We used to play football together. And we were really young, like 10. And then his dad used to run a football team in my area. And then we grew up together. We went to separate schools, but we'd always see each other. We'd always reason and talk about deeper things. And we both had different experiences in an area which is highly gang affiliated. So I remember even going one time, I went to Lewisham Centre and he had his blazer off and he's arguing with the boys from Peckham because they're arguing with his friend. And I've gone and said, so what's wrong? What's happening? He goes, no, Luke, go home. I said, no, I don't want to go home. He said to me, no, just go. Because it's a school beef. But in that school, people were from different areas. So if you stayed within the school confines of having that beef, it was all right. Because they would just sort it out the next day.
Yeah.
But if I got involved or I was involved, it would leak into where it would go into a different thing.
Yeah.
So we had that all the time. And then when I used to do music, we did music together. We did music together. So we've always talked. And I think it was in that music stage where we was doing music together and hanging around with each other. And we became dads at the same time. We were always talking and reasoning, and we were talking about religion. And I remember because when I was about to have my first daughter, I wanted to know what I'm going to teach her. Do you know what I mean? I was like, what? I need to know. I need to have a bit more of a stern direction. So we used to read. We used to read about different religions. I remember even being on like a tour bus when we was doing music, and I'm reading about Islam on the tour bus. I was looking at me like, why are you reading books on the tour bus like that? We're going to go and do a show over there. We're going to do this. I'm reading. And he was one of the only people that just supported me reading all of the time. Like, just do your thing. And even to this day, so we do the same job. So we don't work together, we do the same job. So we're both youth mentors, we do the same thing. So it's somebody with the same ethics as you, do you know what I mean? Like, and like, that's someone I should pray more for. Do you know what I mean? That's my close friend, that's my boy. Like, that's like my brother. And we don't have to see each other, we don't have to do anything, but that's...
The love's always there, yeah.
Because he's always giving me that care. He's always giving me that care in anything that relates to me growing. He's never advised me to do one thing, inside the deen, outside the deen. He's never advised me to do something that he thought would be bad for me.
Yeah.
If he thought I'm in the wrong, he'll tell me I'm in the wrong. He's not once.
Friends like that, they're far and few between.
Bro. But they're worth a million other friends.
Yeah.
They're worth a million other friends, man.
Yeah. It's like that thing where... I think I was reading this thing where when the Sahaba were asking like Khalid bin Walid, like, oh, can you, like, you know, we got this battle, this like, I mean, I'm butchering this completely. I don't remember it 100%, but I remember the punchline. And punchline was that just give me 10 guys, and he's like, 10 guys, like, you know, you got to go fight like, you know, 100 guys, 150, 200 guys. He's like, well, just give me 10 lions, 10 guys that are lions, and I can deal with whatever you put in my way. So that's the kind of same thing with friends, right? You give me one good friend is worth 1,000 good friends,
100%. And I learned in it, like I've learned the company you keep is key. And that's why it's weird, because people spend a lot of time doing things. I'm blessed, alhamdulillah, like my wife and me, we're best friends, we get on. And we can kind of do everything together. So there's not, I don't feel like I'm literally in my element. I feel like the mistakes and the errors that I'm making, or the things that I'm falling short for in life, are definitely down to me not clinging on to my blessings, rather than needing to find blessings from anywhere else. My friends are good, my family is good, my wife is super, alhamdulillah, my kids are good. So I'm alright, you know what I mean? So everyone's I got the things around me, it's just utilising it now, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the tools are there, but then you gotta navigate your own way around it, alhamdulillah. Exactly. That's good, man.
A lot of these young people have seen, a lot of everybody has seen the film Blue Story. Yeah?
Blue Story, yeah.
The person who wrote that's my age group. Half the people that's acting in it are people that was around when I was little, and a lot of them were acting out things that were pretty true to the area that we were from. Yeah. So we had problems with and I'm not saying this as a gang member, I'm saying this as a person who lived in the same area. Anybody who was from that borough had issues with people from Peckham and from Woolwich. bear in mind that it's literally the main block in Blueborough, the main block is 5 minutes away from the border between Peckham and New Cross. Yeah? There's a road that is like 50 meters and you're going into what we'd call kind of Peckham when you get in there. So it was normal. And like I said, some of us, nobody really chooses where you live in it. You live where your parents told you to live.
Yeah.
So you grow up and you have to deal with the issues that happened in that area, irrespective. But like I said, the people that I had around me, the friends I had around me, your friends have to want good for you. And I can say that a lot of people go, yeah, but you do. That's beside the point. And I'll tell you why I believe it's beside the point. Yes, we don't want to be hypocrites. Yes, we don't want to be someone who does bad and tells someone to do good. Yeah? But sometimes we know how we got to this stage. And we don't want you to walk the same path that we walked to get to this stage, because we know the journey back is hard.
Yeah.
So if you don't get there in the first place, the journey back won't be so hard.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying to you?
It's better to be doing something bad and saying something good than doing something bad and saying the bad as well.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So a lot of people get caught up and say, oh, like, I can't give advice. I can tell you this now, categorically, yeah, I'm nobody to be giving advice. I am nobody, yeah? But if I could give someone advice to not step and tread in the bad footsteps that I've treaded in, it would be a travesty for me to not do so.
Yeah.
It'd be a waste of time.
It's almost your responsibility as well, right?
It must be, because if I'm struggling to pull myself out of it, if I'm in quicksand and I'm struggling to pull myself out of the quicksand, why on earth would I want you to walk in the quicksand so we can sit in there together and I say, see, it's bad in there, isn't it? Watch this stroke try and climb out together. I'm not going to want you to get in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people do that. They nitpick. They say, oh yeah, but you. Sometimes listen to the advice that somebody's giving you, because sometimes people. The best person to give you advice to not take drugs is somebody who's probably on drugs. Yeah. The guy who is on drugs is the best person. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
The recovered person can tell you, but that recovered, if you look at people, for example, that take drugs and alcoholics, they never ever say to you they're not an alcoholic anymore. They say they are a recovering alcoholic, because they still have exactly the same urges, but they've learned a way to channel those urges. So they don't want you to get the urge. So they don't want you to get hooked on a lifestyle for you to be in a situation where you have to fight that every single day. Yeah. So sometimes what the young people don't understand is when we're telling them, okay, cool, what you're hanging around with and so on and so forth, is because we've already done that. Do you know what I mean? And now the same people we used to hang around with are now our enemies and problems with these people, because we used to hang around with them, we picked the wrong people to hang around with. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So.
How did you step out of that circle? I mean, what was the turning point in your life where you realised, okay, you know what, I need to do this? And what age were you at?
All right, so when I joined secondary school, my brother is 4 years older than me, but 5 school years older than me. I think that's possible. Yeah. Yeah, so he's the end of the year and I'm the beginning of the year. Yeah? So when I started secondary school, he'd already moved out. And he'd moved into a hostel because he wanted to live on his own. We had an issue, my uncle passed away and he took it a bit bad, so he kind of wanted to be on his own, you know? So he moved out. So I remember joining secondary school, my brother saying to me, listen, I can't be around you, because he was living in a hostel in Notting Hill, and my secondary school was in New Cross. He said to me, nah, you don't let nobody bully you. I said, what? He said, don't let nobody chat to you. I said, why? I said, of course not. He said, no. He said, I'm telling you, don't let them, you put it on them. Don't let nobody put it on you. So I started secondary school, angry face. I was the same height I am today. Honestly, I was probably about this much smaller when I started secondary school. Yeah.
That's quite intimidating.
Do you know what I mean? It was all, I don't know, I just stopped growing. I was like, no, at the time I was like, yeah, I'm massive. So I was in secondary school and I remember badding up people. I remember one kid, he threw a paper aeroplane or a piece of paper in the class and it hit me. And when it hit me, I remember saying to him, he said, oh, sorry, Luke, sorry, Luke. And I got up and dragged him over the table and held him up and said, listen, watch where you're throwing stuff. Cool, I'm thinking, all right, cool, I'm standing my ground, everyone's gonna know not to mess with me. Then another day I was in the playground and we were playing, it's a game called Foursquare. It's like pat ball, but in 4 squares, King, Queen, Jack. They call it, there's different names for it, you know what I mean? Where you pat the ball across and you move up the square. So we're playing, I'm not even playing yet, I'm at the queue, at the front of the queue, and I turn around, this boy is standing next to me. And I said to him, what are you standing so close to me for? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Move for me. And I turned back round and I could hear whimpering. And when somebody was crying, and I was like, no. I said, I'm going to be a bully. I think I was year 7 or just year 8. That's what so basically, to defend myself, I've turned into the perpetrator. So we will revisit this in a minute, yeah? Remember what we was talking about earlier on?
Yeah.
We'll revisit this in a minute, yeah? So my fear of wanting to be the person that was bullied led me to display actions that were exactly that of a bully.
So you became what you were fearing.
Right, irrespective of the fact that my heart didn't want to do it, yeah? Right? There's an African proverb here that says, when you see someone's beard on fire, put water on your own. Yeah? So when you see someone else and you see that they're bullying, rather than you criticize them or their behavior or their sin or something, look at yourself and look at the similarities and start to douse out the fire before it starts on your own. Yeah? So I say it again, you see someone's beard on fire, put water on your own. Yeah? And that's another one of my very, very close friends, my very few close friends who told me that, yeah? When he said it to me, it's always stayed with me. It stayed with me. It's something I remember all of the time. So obviously we're having the dean that you don't like, and I'm paraphrasing that, you shouldn't really laugh at someone's issues because you're probably going to be tested with the same thing that they're getting tested with. This could easily happen to us. Same thing. Sometimes you're so hell-bent on, I'm not going to be, and you end up being exactly what you don't want to be. And that's happened throughout me, many different stages in my life, sometimes worse and sometimes better than the other. So just to remember, the reminder to myself is that just deal with yourself first, yeah? So that's when I kind of toned down a little bit. But my reward for toning down was in year 11. When I was in year 11, I got robbed for the first time and hit by there was 5 of us and there was 15 boys. It's 5 of us and 3 girls coming back from Chesterton or something stupid like that. And I was so adamant I want to go home on my own, I'm going to go, because I meant to stay at my friend's house. I made sure I left and went. I was 10 minutes from my house and I went an extra half an hour after the robbing happened and went there. I'd got rushed. I'd been caught in places where I didn't have anything on me to defend myself to the same level that people that was there was attacking me with. So my reward for me keeping out of that was that I did end up getting attacked. Okay, cool. So then I had to think, and I'm even just reflecting on this now. So do I counter that with upping my,
it's not easy,
what I'm going to do now? And it's not easy. But I tell you what is worse and not easy to live with, is it's not easy to live with you behaving outside of your ethics. So if you put yourself in a situation where you have to behave outside of something that your core and your disposition, your natural feature doesn't want to do, it will live with you forever. So if I say, okay, cool, this guy's carrying this, so I'm going to carry that, and I use it on that boy, and I use something on him, I have to live with the idea that I've killed that person. I have to sit with that. So I need to make sure that my ethics are okay with that, because if I'm not okay with that, yeah, which is very difficult for any human to be okay with that. Yeah. Very, very, if we talk about human nature, it's very difficult for any human to truly be okay with that. Yeah. Then it's gonna come back and bite me on my bum. Do you see what I mean? So I don't want to, so again, the times that have caused me probably the most problems is when I've acted outside of my ethics. So I was okay, I said to myself, okay, at that age I was like, I'm still not gonna carry anything. But I had a decent level of respect in my area because I played football and I did music. So either way, I was popular, I was alright, and I was pretty safe. Like people, no, you can't trouble him. You know what I mean? So I was alright. So I never really got into it. And then when I got to about 19, I was always, when I got to 19, my daughter was conceived. And then that was like big shock to the system. Like literally, the day before, if you asked me if I was ready to be a dad, I would have said no. The day after, when I found out, you have to be ready. You've got no choice.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you see what I mean? And these times I didn't have.
It's like a switch.
It's like a switch, and so I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Religion. What am I gonna do? This. What am I gonna do that? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna manage that relationship? I had to work out what I was gonna do.
So the journey started with the kind of conception of your first child, or the news that you're going to be a father, or
that kind of made me a little bit more focused on. I got to get up and do it now. Yeah. So there's a saying in, I think it's The Godfather, right? It says, I spent the whole of my life trying not to be careless. Women and children can be careless, but men cannot be careless. They can never be careless. And you kind of get that as a man, you get that realization, you're like, now my carelessness has to stop.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much that I already knew I didn't want to do that, but you could skirt around it. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was going to places where stuff was happening that I didn't want to get involved in what was happening, but I was there. When you find you have a child, you kind of distance yourself from the places because you've got less margin or less room to...
less margin for error there.
For error there. So it's kind of like that. So it's kind of then, and then, but ultimately, what sets my framework is Islam.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that
you're kind of answering one of the questions I was just about to ask you. I was going to say, like, you're talking about these ethics and everything. Like, what should be, like, where should we get our ethics from? Because if, like, I've had this kind of discussion before and just kind of thought about it with myself as well. Like, where are we getting our morals from, right? You know, one person might do something, you know, and think that it's completely fine. But for us as Muslims, it's not completely fine, you know?
Yeah.
They might be like, oh, it's just a drink, or, you know, it's just a cigarette or whatever. But it's not like, as in their morals are being stemmed from what they're seeing in maybe pop culture or this or that. And we have our own, you know, Sharia or our own morals. So where as we as young people should we get our morals and ethics from? And obviously you were just about to move on to that.
I'll give you some things in some people Allah has put in you, and your soul was made even before you chose this. You chose, quote marks, your religion. Yeah. So Allah guides you, but when we're making conscious decisions, we think we're doing this or we're doing that, or we're born into this family, we're born into that family. So you have some things that will excel, some things that will shine brighter than other things in your character. You have trustworthy people. You have people that have expressed more bravery. You have people that are maybe more caring, more empathetic. You have these things. Now, the example that we have in the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had the best balance of all of them things. Yeah? So if I ask you, we should get our ethics should be in line with what Allah says to do. And I'm right, it should be in line with what Allah says to do. The practical example of that is the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The first 3 generations is who he said for us to follow and emulate. Yeah? Now, I still turn around and say that the only person who we should take in totality is the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's simple. You know there's a rule set and you know someone that's been verified. You know that's how you're going to copy. If I said to you, look, this guy has ticked every single box to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. That is the black belt. Yeah? There's some other black belts in the gym, but he ticked every single box. If you aim to tick all of his boxes and you fall short, you're probably going to hit the other boxes anyway.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But Allah made it easy for us. He made it so easy for us because he gave us such good companions and such good prophets along the way as well, who excelled and had other elements of their character. So I'll give you an example, yeah? You got flipping someone who comes there and trains. You got a brother, he's the best looking brother you've seen in your life. You're like, this brother needs to never, ever meet my daughter in his life. He can't. He's the handsomest brother in the world. Yeah? So what trials do you think he's going to face in his life?
A lot of attention. A
lot of attention. Whose example have we got that gives you an exact example of that scenario?
Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam.
There you go. Do you see what I mean by that, yeah? Someone, yeah, we go to another example, we go through people that have had issues with their parents. And we look at prophets that have had issues with their parents. We look at the Sahaba that had issues with their parents. We know brothers, for example, that are used to living a lifestyle outside where there was strong, bold, what would be perceived by standards as brave and feared. We have Umayyah ibn Kitab. And how did he manage those characteristics within the realms of the deen? So we have the deen, and then we can be close to the edge, slipping out. We can be close to the middle, staying in. So we have these things. And again, like I said to you, I'm not here to give no one no mad advice because I struggle myself. Yeah. I try to know who I try to emulate, and I know who I try to be like. And I know I know I'm going to fall short. It doesn't stop me from trying. I know I have fallen short. It doesn't stop me from being repentant. We should take our way of life from the the people that were blessed by God before us, people that were verified and certified. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they got the examples in the
The
Quran and
examples.
Sunnah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
and it doesn't, just because you struggle with something, it doesn't disqualify you from giving that advice.
Giving that advice. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's it's to say, it's again, now using jiu-jitsu as an example, like I can say to a man, all right, cool, I'm gonna show you a move, yeah, and this is the move, and it's really, really good, but I'm definitely not doing it justice. If you want to see the purity of the move, go to so and so.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you how I got it, and you could follow what I'm saying and be like, cool, tick the boxes, because I might teach it in a way that you understand, but you know the purity of it, it comes from a certain source.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely. Going back to what you were talking about, like kind of this culture that you had growing up, how would you say you would tackle this kind of gang culture, these knife crimes? How can we kind of create better environments for these young? Because I mean, just even in Slough, in our local area, just recently, I'd say in the last 6 months, I've just heard of, you know, so many situations in which young guys. The one that really kind of hit home to me, I didn't know the brother personally, but there was a brother who got stabbed kind of in Slough recently. He was same age as me, he was 24 years old, same situation as me, married a year ago, right? And, you know, stabbed, and really kind of, you know, he was martyred in the middle of the street. And, you know, it's a very, like, when my family are kind of seeing this as well, and they're getting kind of worried, like, oh, you go Slough every other day, and, you know, you're training there or whatever. And, like, previously as well, there was actually another brother that had a similar situation. He got stabbed and he was killed. And you see this so often. It's not just happening in Slough, it's happening around. So how can we push people away from this? And we briefly spoke about this before, where you said that, you know, if that person's carrying, then if I'm not carrying, then I'm at a disadvantage. And you see this on the bigger scale as well, like with the countries. I'm not going to turn off my nuclear weapons because he's not turning off his nuclear weapons. So it's obviously not something that we can fix on a massive scale, but everything is built bottom up, right?
But everything is built bottom up, and we go back to the same thing where we were saying, it's ethics. Because if your morality and ethics don't tell you something, you're going to do what is the easiest thing to do. There is something in human nature which likes to destroy. They, rather than challenge something, they like to destroy it. You get it in babies. They're making Lego and they're making a building, and they start struggling to make the building, so they smash the whole building up. Do you see what I mean? So some of these young people are struggling to communicate with each other. They're struggling to tussle to communicate with each other. So they just think, if I just destroy the other person, they'll shut up and I don't have to hear them. Do you know what I mean? And it's us to train them that they do have the tools to communicate with each other. They do have the right to disagree with each other. They do have the right that it's not like the WWE Championship belt where you've got ratings on the road, and for him to have ratings on the road, he has to take away your ratings on the road. It doesn't work that way. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But ultimately, it's ethics, and it's to not allow certain things to be normalized outside, and they are. Sadly, they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could tell you, okay, don't go to Slough, don't go here, don't do this, don't do that. But
it doesn't solve the problem, though.
It doesn't solve the problem, and the problem is the ethics and how we are balancing our understanding, of how to manage, and we don't value human life.
Yeah.
So then, once you don't value human life in and of itself.
Yeah, and you need to look at what the value that Allah has placed on human life, right? Like by taking a life, it's as if you've killed the whole of humanity. So Allah is putting a lot of weight and value on human life, and I guess as a Muslim, if you can understand this, or even as a person, if you can understand this, then that will probably help. You know, take steps in the right direction
100%.
for that problem.
Because you just said it, we're too busy trying to give someone a valuation based upon our opinion of them as a person. You can remove whatever person they are, good or bad. They're a person. So you as a human has a certain set of rights. You as an individual allows me and makes it easier for me to exercise those rights, or may make me want to go over and beyond those rights. Yeah, but we don't. It's like we don't have an understanding that somebody's a human. We don't. I said this, we don't have an understanding, and it's sad. And like I said, that's my day job. I mentor youth at the moment in semi-independent living. And it's something we try to tackle every day. Every day I'm trying to talk someone out of being destructive. But we're in a society where people are destructive to themselves.
Yeah.
So being disruptive to another person how much is that going to appeal to someone to not do?
Yeah. What's the kind of conflict you see in these kind of young adolescents that they're trying to rationalize it in their mind, right? Like, should I do this? Should I not?
It's safety. A lot of the time it's safety. Is they don't feel safe, so they want to feel safe. And also is that credibility of how credible you are outside. So people's ego is shackling them. And we have a very difficult time, even as adults, myself included, of separating your ego from dignity. Do you know what I mean? So pride, dignity, and egotisticalness. If we look at them in a line, we could sum them up with quite a similar thing. But being proud, having your dignity, and having an ego are all different things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we should have dignity. We should be able to be treated in a dignified way. But often people who discuss being treated in a dignified way discuss behaving in a dignified way to be treated in a dignified way. If you're proud, you can believe you don't deserve to be treated that way, which, okay, but sometimes your behavior doesn't warrant you to be treated a certain way. And then your ego can just get in the way and poison you in totality. Do you know what I mean? And it's same with pride as well. It's having dignity. Some people think, okay, cool, I want to be dignified and I want to keep my dignified. They're too busy looking at external factors to maintain their dignity. Your dignity comes from within. You give, do you know what I mean? Allah gives you honor. Honor is the word I'm looking. Allah gives you honor, as a person, and you act.
He even says, we honored you with Islam.
Right. Do you see what I mean? So you have to value yourself. You value yourself, and sometimes that comes out for other people to value. And if you value yourself, it doesn't matter what somebody else does to you because you know the value that you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we dwell
you know the value that you are and the value that Allah has placed on you as well. So it kind of all comes back to where we're getting our morals and our ethics.
Loads of people make mistakes. Yeah. So people.
Everyone, not even loads.
Yeah. Everyone makes mistakes, and some people's mistakes come in the way of murder. Yeah. So it's more how you stand behind what you do after you've done something than what drove you to do it. And I'm going to give you the logic behind it. Yeah. So the perpetrator is the one who does the stabbing, and the victim is the one who gets stabbed. So let's say I leave my house and I hear so-and-so's at a party and he wants to kill me. Yeah? And I'm like, I'm not going to go to the party. So if someone says to me, no, well, so-and-so said the party is on your road, so you're going to have to pass the party. So I leave my house now with a knife. He leaves his house now with a knife. Yeah? We get into some squashbuckling, musketeer sword fight in the middle of the street. But I'm better when it comes to having a knife. So if I'm better at having a knife, you'd assume that I'm going to win the stabbing competition.
Yeah.
I stab him, I go in the paper as the perpetrator.
Yeah. Even though it didn't, that's not actually how the
because we judge the perpetrator and the victim based upon the end result, not everything walking towards it. Do you see what I mean? So if we do that, it now gets a little bit messy. And that's what we're getting to now, because it's not the evil person is the one, it's only evil people that carry knives now. Yeah, because people have lost what the intention and what it means. You can't tell much from who carries a knife. Almost every single child carries a knife. I'm sincerely, like probably 70% of the kids that I meet have a willingness to carry a knife or do carry a knife. So that being said, half of them are the victims and half of them are the perpetrators.
But they're all the same kettle of fish.
But they all started in the same place.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty with it, is because, like I said to you, sometimes you've got to work out what's worse to live with. Now people say, okay, cool, I'd rather live at any cost than to die. But I don't know if you would, and I've never been faced with it. But we, Islamically, we would like to die in a good way. So we don't want to die with ill intention and ill will and ill feeling. So it's not as simple as, okay, well, cool, I'm going to defend my life at all costs. You don't want to cost your ethics. You don't want to change your morality. You don't want to do that to be in that scenario. And I feel like the people that are stabbing, some of them, they know about Islam. Some of them are scared. Some of them are so fearful of what someone else is going to do to them, they don't understand the way to get out of it. Do you know what I mean? Some of them are shunned. So how many brothers you know, okay, cool, they go to the masjid, and they go to the masjid and they smell like weed. They don't want to go again because everyone's looking at them because they smell. These times a brother can just put utter all over him and say, brother, just hold on to that. Wear that. Pray. You're not high, are you? No? Cool. Just wear that and pray. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, it's kind of a positive reaction and like you're encouraging him to want to be there. Because he's there obviously with a reason. He might have this conflict in his mind, like I've just done something that's displeasing and you know, now I need to like, that might be his way of asking for forgiveness or repenting. Or
you've got a revert, and the revert comes into madrasa. He comes in, he's 11, his parents just reverted, or he just reverted, he's learning Arabic. They put him in the small class with the small kids. He's sitting there learning with the small kids, feeling like an idiot. One of the kids is laughing at him. Then the teacher says, the best of us is the ones who have the best deen. So I can't be the best, and I'm flipping 12 years old, sitting in a 5-year-old class. What am I, idiot? Then you don't come back. So if we're looking at what we can do, we, as a Muslim community, we've got to look at how we can invite people in. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like,
the barriers to entry need to be easier.
Yeah, because we as humans have the nature of excluding someone and making subgroups and subcategories to function in. Do you know what I mean? And we do that, and the evidence for doing so is, yes, it's lack of understanding of the purity of our deen, but sometimes by feeling that you understand some of it, it makes you negligent to learn the rest. So I know enough to get along, so I don't need to learn about that. So we've got people that we have factions and sects within the deen. These are not coming from people who allegedly have no knowledge. They're people who are educated to a high level. It's not stupid person A arguing with educated person B. It's two people that are educated in something, two different forms of something, and have got two different understandings, and they're coming back to the circle of their education. You know what I mean? So it's for us, we want to try to invite as many of the young people in as possible, and to be doing lots of activities and things to keep them occupied. The gym's lovely. Having a gym space is lovely because people like to pump weights, people like to be healthy, people like to be fit, people like to challenge themselves, so they challenge themselves in here. It's the same challenge in here is the same challenge that's going on outside. This is no rules.
Yeah, of course. This is a much better environment to do it because it's the same thing as you have an ego and the other person has an ego, and you come to terms with each other in a way that is like, you know what, 5 out of 10 times you might have the advantage, 5 out of 10 times I might have the advantage, and you come to understand and appreciate that. So then it takes that ego and that need to prove yourself out. Now.
So look at the scenario you just gave here. So two people come in here, they're laughing. He's coming here, he's a blue belt, and everyone's looked at him, he's had a little look at him and like, right, he's the same weight as me. Right, so we're gonna go. They spar. It gets a bit sticky. One of them gets the better of the other. One of them taps the other. He taps him and says, bro, you are tough. But they went all at it, You're tough, you're tough, you're tough, you're tough. Let's take the same scenario outside. I said, anybody from this gang over there, if you're bad, reach me. This boy reaches him. They get in a problem, he stabs him to death. You ask the boy that stabbed him into the death, do you think the brother's an idiot? He'll say, I rate him still. He turned up. But the result of it is he's dead. So there is the consequence to the challenge is worse.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? You know how many people say that? They say I rate him, he was my op, but I rate him, because he was a rider. He was the only one from your batch that came out, but he's the only one dead. So now what? Where do you know what I mean? Where do we go with this? It gets a bit technical. So it's giving them safe spaces to be able to challenge and be able to have fun and be able to do these things. And
I guess the older you get, it becomes your responsibility to kind of shepherd the younger generation in that direction.
I think it is that, but I feel like as elders, we have to learn from them as well. The best relationships are bilateral. They go both ways. So information transfer comes this way and goes the opposite way. Do you see what I mean by that? So that's sometimes the reason why Islam is so appealing is because the discourse gives you the idea, the way the Quran is written and it was revealed, you know that the person that's telling you what to do has full knowledge of what's happened. So it's bilateral by default. Does that make sense? Allah is just have not the disbelievers seen. So He's told you there's disbelievers. I already know what they're not looking at. Tell them to look here. So even though you don't get to have a discourse with Allah directly in relation to that, He already knows. So you know that knowledge is both ways. Now, if we know that we're not all knowing, yeah, we can't be dictating towards young people. It has to be bilateral because we know we're not all knowing.
Yeah.
So by talking to them, we talk to them like we're all knowing and that it's one way, and I know I know exactly what you lot are gonna do. Then something gets proven wrong, they will now dismiss the whole of your testimony. Do you see?
Yeah.
The reason why we read the Quran the way we read the Quran is because we know He's all knowing.
Yeah.
So we know by default the information is bilateral. It's a bilateral exchange.
He's already considered.
He's already considered everything. So it's the same. He's taken into account things I wish I could have said that I didn't say already. Do you know what I mean? Everything that was worth saying he's already covered.
Yeah, that's why the Quran is so mind-boggling when you read it as well. You're like, whoa, like
this appeals to me now.
There's not anyone that I've met that has read the Quran and has said to me, "No, I can't relate."
Yeah.
I haven't met one person that can say that.
It always relates in some way, shape, or form. Do you know what I mean? So when you look at the teaching and learning is bilateral a lot of the time. So we've just got to learn from the young people. We've got to ask them, like, what is it? What is it that you lot are doing? What is it that you lot think? And we say, oh, I used to do something similar. They say, really? I say, yeah, but we used to call it this, and this was our problem back in the day, and this was their problem. And then you get common ground, and you say, look, well, I don't want you to go through what I went through. Sorry, so you admit, like, I don't know everything, but maybe this can help you in your way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's how it works.
Yeah. Man, you've just been talking. Do you want to grab a drink or something, man? I feel like we're putting the pressure on you a little bit, you know what I mean?
It's cool, man. This is what I do every day. The kids ring.
Yeah.
It's every day. I do it every day. On the way here, phone call saying someone's got their little gas canisters in their room. She's using them in her room. She's invited another young person to use them in her room. I remember to explain to her why you can't use them. Yeah. Oh, but why? It's legal. So do you hire? Yeah. So are we allowed to have you in the house and you're hire? No. So what are you doing? I want to be in the house to stay safe. Well, then stop using them then. It's simple. All of that. That's an everyday thing for me. Like, literally on the way here, that's what's happening. We get phone calls like that, non-stop.
No way. Man, there's very like, I think we've covered a lot of ground there on all of that. A lot of gems in there as well. And inshallah, you know, a lot of the people that are going to watch this can, you know, benefit. And it's food for thought as well, right? Yeah. Think about it. But I want to switch the direction a little bit. I want to get your take on masculinity, right? Because it's a very hot topic right now, and it's something that I guess a lot of guys are dealing with. And it kind of relates to what we were talking about, because part of the reason that some of this behavior comes out is, you know, they want to be the man, they want to showcase their masculinity and this and that. And we live in a society where being a man is toxic, supposedly, right? A lot of these traits, you're toxic, you're a misogynist, you're this and that. So what should masculinity, from your perspective, like your view, what should masculinity look like?
Alright, there's two ways you can look at it. You have to look at it by definition, yeah? So we look at who you are judging to define what masculinity is. So if I use my religion to define masculinity, and it says to me that to fulfill that criteria, you should do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That makes you masculine.
Yeah.
And you have the secular definition, what society classes as masculine, which is fluid, because it changes.
Yeah.
So what was masculine 20 years ago is not what's masculine now.
Yeah.
Cool. Then you have the idea of social norms in your area. So we know that it doesn't change. We know that you're not going to change the pillars of your concept of masculinity, but there may be some things you may add or do less of as times go by. Do you know what I mean? So for me, there's too much pseudo masculinity going around, which is the obvious, really, really, what's the word? Stereotypical actions.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got a temper and you're aggressive, if you're a leader, yeah, and you're a bunch of other things, people say, okay, cool, that's masculine. Now, if in any group there can only be one full leader, are we saying that the rest of the group are not masculine because they're not the leader? What if I said to you, okay, I'll give you an example. So you go into someone's house, and they should lead Salah. It's their house. Yeah? So that's the right that they have as the man of the house. So we look at masculinity in a setting. You know? So he should lead Salah. He knows that he only knows 2 juz. And the brother that's standing behind him knows every juz and recites it beautifully. Sometimes the more masculine decision to make is to step down from the position that you're in and let someone else do it. It's delegation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think people don't really realise that. When they're thinking, okay, what a man looks like, there's some stuff I know that my wife knows how to do better than me. There's loads of things. But I'd probably say most of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it would be although I have a responsibility to do certain things as the man of the house, there are some things that it may look like it falls in line with my... Bro, alright, I'll give you a better example. I'm going to give you a very good example. The Prophet Muhammad got his revelation, right? What happened next?
The first time he goes, he went back to his wife, Khadija.
So who did he ask for advice?
His wife.
Okay. Now, if you ask people now, Muslim or non-Muslim, do you go to your wife to ask advice on matters like this? None of them will think it's not masculine to say that.
To ask her.
No, I don't ask her nothing. I ask your wife, I tell my wife. So that's what I say to you. A man will talk like that to you.
Yeah.
The Prophet Muhammad went back to his wife.
Yeah.
Do you feel where I'm coming from? So when we look at masculinity, we have to look at the definition of what it is, and we need to look at implementing characteristics that we've seen the men of our time show. Actions is one thing, the characteristics.
Yeah.
So we look at the characteristics, these are the things that they had in common, and these are the things that they excelled in different areas in, but they had these characteristics.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So.
And I would like that point that you said about the definition that we have now is fluid, right?
Yeah.
And that's quite consistent with a lot of things, like, you know, a lot of the rules and the boundaries that we measure ourselves by, they're all fluid. It's about how I feel or how you feel or what the pop culture is saying or what's new. So it's very hard to continuously measure yourself against something that's dynamic, right? But something that is set in stone or that is complete, like for example, if you look at the Sunnah of the Prophet and the Sahaba and how they dealt with things and what was masculine and what Allah is telling you as well, then it's a lot easier to stay within, you know, if something's not changing, it's easier to be consistent with it, right? So I think finding that ground where you can be consistent with something and something that's unchanging, because you're never going to be able to please society, and what might be masculine for one person is not going to be masculine for the other person, because everything is subjective, and my opinion and how I feel is what is trumped. So, but those people and those ideologies are making you the center of the universe, and you're not the center of the universe. And I don't mean you as in you, but I mean in third person. So it's important to, coming back to what you said as well, where you're getting your ethics, your morals, your structure, your goals, what you want to do with your life, right? Like how, like you said, there was that point where you were like, I need to stop being careless now. A lot of these things can fall into being careless. So it's about stepping up, taking that responsibility. Like, you know, imagine now, like the Prophet said that, I don't want this responsibility. I'm 40 years old. I go and tell all these Arabs to change their life. That would be him being careless, right? Like stepping back from responsibility. But no, he showed character, showed his resolve, and pushed forward. Alhamdulillah.
And I think accountability is a big thing. It's a reflection.
Yeah,
it's a very big thing. I don't have to be a woman because I'm a man. So I can only give you the things that I know. How when I look, I know what helps people to be a better human. Because of the Quran and Sunnah, and then I look at how they can be implemented in modern society as a man. Again, another example, the hadith, and I probably will butcher this, so when under the comments, you might have to turn comments off. Because I don't know if man are going to say, hey, that's the way it is. But give an example, there's a hadith where someone's urinated in the masjid, and the Sahaba, they're like, what? He needs to get lifted out, sort of thing, and the Prophet said, let him finish. Now, the feeling that every one of them felt, none of them liked watching somebody urinate in the masjid, correct? So the feeling was a masculine, how they felt responsible for the masjid, how they felt, this is wrong, this isn't right. But the action, we had someone say leave them, and the rest was look like they're going to do something. We would have judged the action as masculine. we wouldn't dare say the Prophet Muhammad was not masculine.
No, of course not.
But his response wasn't the same as their response, because there was a time for patience, time for wisdom, time to be calm, time to be relaxed. So that's why I said there's too much pseudo-masculinity going on.
Yeah.
So I mean, and also we allow the media to define what masculinity is, and then we feel that we have to stick up to that standard.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That we feel that we have to stick up for that standard.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult.
If I buy my wife a rose or buy her something fancy and just kind of make more time for her than my friends, does it make me less of a man?
No way. Actually, if I give you my honest opinion, again, this is my opinion, so it's just as valid as someone else's opinion that I'd say is rubbish. If you know how to take care of the emotions of an adult that is the similar age to you, who is their own entity and has their own feelings about things, and you can manage to be yourself and appease them, how does that not make you a higher level human than someone who doesn't? In a sense, it gives you an addition.
Yeah.
You've now taken, it's not just a you thing, it's now become a you and someone else thing.
Yeah.
Yeah? We hear that marriage is half of your deen. Why? Why is it half of your deen? I don't mean why is it I'm questioning it, I'm saying why? If it has that value, then you've got to realise that it takes a characteristics and a drive to be able to do such a thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not something that's easy.
It's not something that's easy to do. So therefore, the qualities that you express to keep that and maintain that situation working and moving smoothly, they must be elements that make you more masculine, for failure of a better term. But forget that, they make you, if I look at it irrespective of gender, make you a more responsible person.
Yeah.
A wife, or give you an additional set of responsibilities. Yes, you can get responsibilities in other ways, but there are elements that they're avenues to expose and show your character.
Yeah. And eventually that wife will give you children, and that adds to your responsibilities and everything.
It doesn't make sense. People always, that's not masculine. What's masculinity? You going out and go and fight people. Whoa. I go on, the hardest fights I fight are not in the gym or not physical fights. The hardest fights I fight is fighting my own desires, my own self, my own sins, my own past, my things that happen outside when I argue with people, being spoken to a certain way and how I take it.
Yeah.
Those battles are a lot harder than me going to go and physically fight somebody. So I can't gauge my masculinity on my ability to be able to beat someone up.
Yeah, the jihad on your nafs.
Right, so again, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to stick up for yourself and be able to stand up for yourself physically, but you're meant to learn with that physicality what comes. So I'll give you an example, yeah? I can give you 5 animals that are not overtly violent, yeah? I'll give you animals that are overtly violent, yeah? Or they tear flesh. So you have a mongoose, they're pretty handy. You have rats, they eat flesh all the time. Flies, they crowd around dead flesh. If you looked at what they do pound for pound, it's vicious. Yeah. You have hyenas, yeah, and you have crows. The action that they do is all physically violent, correct? And I believe every single one of them, maybe not a mongoose, let's remove a mongoose, is a meat eater. Okay. Gorilla, yeah, lion, bear, hippo. I'm going to use those 4 as an example. All animals whose behavior is very, very dignified. You know, if you watch a gorilla, gorillas don't even eat meat.
Yeah.
So they don't eat meat. Lions do, but lions hunt for what they need for their family. Very, very calm animal. Yeah, very mellow demeanor. So these animals that are able to do so much damage and so much, they don't run around rabid and pull at things and they're not opportunists. They're not that. They have no ability. The rest ones I mentioned, they're opportunists. They don't have the ability to do anything, but they pounce when there's an opportunity comes into it. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
It's like hyenas and lions.
Do you know what I mean? If you see, honestly, yeah, do you know, if you watch when like a lion hunts, yeah, or an animal like that hunts and they bite an animal and the animal's injured, do you know
the birds fly and follow.
They're getting ready.
They're getting ready.
Yeah.
They never would think, oh, let's all get together and peck this to death. They couldn't do that. But they'll gladly wait till man's limping and crawling all over the floor.
Yeah. Just stalking.
Stalking.
You know, there's that picture as well of like, and I think the person who took the picture ended up committing suicide as well. We saw in school. It's like this really like deprived African child, like really skinny, you know, like of hunger. And it's just kind of like curled up, same fetal position, and you can just see a vulture in the background just waiting, you know? Yeah. It's not like, as in that child is, you know, just about to die from hunger or starvation or whatever, from illness, and the vulture's just there waiting. It's not coming in and, you know, it's waiting for this opportunity.
Vulture, that's what I had, imagery I had in my head. You're right. And that's what, so when we class masculinity as the person that's got the most blood on their claws or blood on their beat, like, are they the most active? Active under what premise? Do you know what I mean? The animals that are able to do, they can control themselves. Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest things I learned in martial arts is the ability to lose, the ability to win, and the ability to maintain myself and keep myself as calm as possible. I don't succeed all of the time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but those are the failures that I class myself in martial arts. With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. You have the power to do something. You've got to be able to.
Shout out Spider-Man.
You know the ones there. But you check it. You've got to be able to do those things, and that's where it comes. So when you have the responsibility of being, the power of being a husband, you have a big responsibility.
You can't be a tyrant in your own home, right?
You see what I mean? So we use tyranny as a way sometimes to measure masculinity. It's a masculine thing to have elements of tyranny in you. Why?
No, of course not, bro.
Do you know what I mean?
And I read this thing as well. It's like when you scratch a tyrant, underneath there's a coward. Yeah. Because that tyranny is coming from a level of insecurity about your own cowardice.
Okay, look at this. I gave you this example earlier. I said, in school, my brother said to me, don't let anyone do something to you. So that veneer that I put over myself ended up being the other bully. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? And I didn't know it was there. It's literally that one day. I was like, wait 1 second. And I'm so happy I caught it so early. Allah made me be able to see it. It didn't make no sense to me. I thought, why is this brother crying? If I show you the guy now, the guy's acting, he's got a strong, bubbly personality. He plays football. Like, he's on YouTube, he does all this type of stuff. And I thought to myself, hold on a minute, I turned around and shouted at you and made you cry, and I could have affected the whole of your life because of something that I was insecure at. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Yeah. So when I look back now, I'm like, wow, like.
Amazing, man. Amazing. You look at cause and effect. Brother, it's been amazing, but I'd like maybe just one piece of advice that you would like to give to the youth out there. I know you're a youth worker as well, so there's probably a whole spectrum there, but there's like one summation that you can give. Obviously it's not something that's limited, but just one thing that you can leave us with, inshallah.
Spend time reflecting. We have a lot of time that we spend acting and doing things, but if you spend a bit of time reflecting and finding out about yourself and exploring who you are from inside, then it might stop you from making some bad decisions. Do you know what I mean? Don't let the haywire and the frenzy of the world,
the impulsiveness,
make it difficult for you to discern, because it's smoke screens.
Yeah.
Everything's happening so quickly, and just taking a moment to think and rest and have a little bit of moment to yourself. Yeah. And just to learn about yourself and who you are, and learning who you are is directly proportionate to learning about your creator. Because who you are was created. So however deep you want to go into that one, however shallow you want to look into it, look into the idea that you are an entity that was created, and for all of the excellence that you have in you, you had no power to create yourself. So allow it to give you humility. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? To elements in the world, you're huge and you're massive, and then other elements in the world, you're small. So everybody's the smallest creature in the world and the biggest creature in the world in their own world. So just try and reflect on that.
Inshallah, it's amazing. Thank you so much, Brother Luqman. I really appreciate you coming down, sharing some nice gems with us. And inshallah, we might even do this one again. I really enjoyed this one. So, when we get a few more episodes rolling, we'll bring you back for another one. Maybe we'll change it up. We'll get a few more brothers here. Normally we have a bit more of a crowd as well. But people's commitments and stuff. But alhamdulillah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We're gonna leave Brother Luqman's Insta details and stuff like that, social media. Check him out, support him, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. And yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to our sponsor again, guys, AWCI. Check them out for your commercial contracting needs.